Well, guys, good morning. You'll never guess what I just did. I just did a good 15 minutes. I even got on early this morning to talk about this, but then realized I was on the wrong stream, as I've been doing a lot lately. I'm quite an airhead these days. All right. Well, anyways, I'll just go over everything I just went over. Essentially, the way I'm looking at this is a look above and fail of the balance area high. It seems like I'm cheating saying it now that the market has started to sell off. But I think the target this morning is going to be either the poor low that we left behind on Friday or somewhere down here around the balancing area low. So the balancing area low is right here, but we got the gap just right below it. So to me, if we get down there and we don't find support exactly at that balancing area low, a repair of that gap is a great target to the downside. And that's at 45.10. Okay, the poor low is at 45.19.25. And the reason for that is the balancing area, right? If we zoom out here a little bit, the market has created this balancing area where we spent pretty much all week last week in it. On Thursday night, we broke above the balancing area, but then during the day, we failed. We pulled back down into balance. What that normally causes is a rotation to the opposite end, to here. But instead, we created this poor low right at the low from 2 days prior. So that tells me that that was, man, that's getting messy. So that tells me that that was weak hands buyers that did the buying here. Okay, it was short-term traders. It was weak hands buyers. They were just looking at this low and buying it. And the market attempting over the weekend, we'll consider yesterday's trade just a larger part of the overnight trade. We won't consider that a regular trading hours day. So this was just another giant look above the balancing area and fail. And so odds tell us we need to rotate down to the opposite end of balance. So to me, these are the targets this morning. Let's see what happens when we repair this poor low. And then let's see what happens if we don't find support there. Let's see what happens at the balance area low. But keep in mind, the way balance areas work is you bounce up and down between them. So you bounce up, you bounce down, you bounce up, you bounce down, you bounce up, you bounce down, up. So if we get down here, we look below this balance area low, repair that gap, and then pull back up above it. That is an extremely potent long trade right there for a rotation back up to the opposite end of balance. Okay. Another thing I was looking at this morning that I thought was a good just perspective to have going into the day was looking at the daily. Again, man, I wish you guys could have heard me streaming earlier when I explained all of this, because now it's happening exactly as I predicted. But if you just step back and look at the monthly chart, so each one of these candles represents a month. We have a lot of green candles. There's a lot of excess on the monthly. Okay, we often get some red candles after we get this much excess. So it's just something to put in the back of your mind. Doesn't mean we're going to have a crazy bearish day. Same thing with the weekly. You can see we've had a few chances where the market has kind of wicked and we've had these small little pullbacks, but it's still a lot of excess straight to the upside. And then when you jump into the daily and you see that we're balancing right on the edge of this trend line, okay, you start to look back and go, well, what happens when we fail to break out of this trend line before? Fail to break out, pull back down, right? All the way to the opposite end of the channel. Then let me just go ahead and throw the moving averages on there. Okay, so then the next time you fail to break out, you trade down to the 20 moving average. Next time you fail to break out, you trade back down to the opposite end of the channel. And so we're doing that again here. We could easily look at it like a balancing area right here. So if the market gets to the opposite end of balance, it shoots back up and then it's ready to break out. But bigger players, longer term players are looking at this and they're thinking the great target would be that 20 or the 50 moving average, which is right along the lower end of that channel. So if the bigger players are waiting for a better opportunity to enter, they're probably not buying the breakout just yet. Okay, so just to give you perspective, it's always nice to step back, look at the daily, just to kind of clear your mind and make you think stonks don't only go up. Also, we're going to ignore this gap down. This doesn't count because, again, that all counts as overnight. All right, so we're heading down towards that poor low. Internals are a little mixed here. A little bit bearish, but not terribly so. Good morning, MK. Good to see you. Good morning, RK Leon. Espacio. Good morning or evening to you. I am realizing we have a lot of international people that watch this, so it's probably all random times of day for them. Shubaho Deep back in the house. Good to see you. Welcome. My Russian friend, turn on the mic, please. I remembered the mic this time. I just started a live stream that went nowhere. I started a private live stream. My B. I swear I'm going to figure this out one of these days. Partha, good morning to you. Fausto, good morning. Ronald is back with us. Good to see you. Marco is here. Good morning. Amir, good to see you as well. Marco calling for the potential repair of the week G period. We got that for sure. Rad is here. Good morning to you. Ronald, I did actually have a pretty crazy weekend. Did a little partying. Hence why my voice still isn't fixed. I give my immune system no opportunity to repair. Arthur, good to see you. Jose, good morning to you. Freddie, good to see you. Welcome back. JL99 is with us. Good to see you. Lamus from Lithuania. What time is it there? Is it morning, noon, or night? D is back with us. Good to see you. Let's take a look at the NQ. See what the Q is doing this morning. Okay, yeah, the Q much stronger than the ES. I would also guess, though, that it's a little early to say. If the ES keeps pulling back, the Q could need to pull back again. But it's been just like slightly stronger over the last week. Not really any great insights jumping out at me here. So, Charles, what happens this morning if we don't repair this poor low? Well, obviously now it seems very unlikely that we won't. But if we don't, that's a when what should happens doesn't, right? So the first what should happen is the look above and fail, right? We looked above the balance area high. When we fail, we often trade to the opposite end of balance. So that's the first thing that should happen. Then you got the poor low, which increases the odds that we will at least get to here. So you don't always get to the opposite end of balance, particularly at the end. So it's like it'll trade up and down in a range like this. And then often the last pullback won't quite make it to the opposite end, and then it'll turn around and break out. So you don't have to get down here. It's just a very high probability that you will. But by leaving this poor low right here, you increase the odds that you will at the very least get to there. Okay? But if for whatever reason we did find support and start trading higher, that would be bullish as a when what should happens doesn't. But like I said, I still think we're going to go take that out. Afternoon. There you go. So in Lithuania, good afternoon. Fausto, Friday you suggested it was a look above and fail. It was. It certainly was. And that's the thing, is that it was a look above and fail, so we should have traded to the opposite end of balance. And not only did we not, we created a poor low. So we know the buyers who bought in here were weak hands. Weak hands? Well, what does that mean, Charles? Who cares if they bought there? Well, if they bought there, the people who did the buying probably still aren't holding those positions, right? They didn't want to hold through the 3-day weekend. So they took profits up in here somewhere, and then we lost that strength that we could have had if we made a good low. All right, so there's the poor low. It's now repaired. So the next target, we can find support here. Okay, start building some volume and then rotate back up. But if not, the next target is that balance area low at 45.12. Do we have a poor high on the ES? No, not for today. We do have a weak high. So whenever you make an all-time high in the overnight, it's considered weak. It's not exactly the same as a poor high. It doesn't behave the same. It's like a poor high is like it pushes away and then it becomes a magnet that pulls it back. This is just kind of like a regular weak reference. It's just like one tiny little magnet pulling it up this direction. You could call it poor though. Okay, so if they are going to bring in support here after the repair of that poor low, we'll be looking for the ticks to get above the 0 line and start pushing higher. Good morning, Sanju, Cy Worker, and Tom. Good to see you guys. Fausto's long here. I would be weary of a long below the repair of this gap. So if we start getting down here to like 45.08, that's when you have to ask yourself, are we looking at a larger look above and fail, being the look above the the trend line here. That would target the 20 moving average at right now at 44.78-ish. The longest for a bounce, not a marriage. Well, there you go. You're getting it. You're getting it. Maybe you get a little backfill here, but then there's going to be some resistance just above. It's worth noting we have bad taper on the low. Okay, 400 contracts, 1600, 400, 300. Market likes to have good taper as a sign that the larger players are stepping in. $73 people watching, 27 likes. Smash that thumbs up if you want us to get down to that balance area low. Harry asked, is the NQ at support? Well, I think the NQ is going to be dragged down by the ES until the ES finds support. But yeah, I mean, there's so much in here. So what stands out to me as support? Well, pretty much this area here is the thing that's jumping out at me right now. Because we pushed above it P-shaped style on Friday and then kind of just rotated above it. So that seems like support. But you've got like 15,608, what is that? 15,586. Those areas as well, just below for support. Now the NQ did make a good low yesterday. As a matter of fact, it opened, on Friday, it only had to go one tick lower. So that should, if you break below that low, that's where you start to get really bearish for further pullback. That should hold. Okay, back to the ES. So far that poor low is not holding. And there's not much else in terms of support between here and the balancing area low. Design when? Do tell. We all know when it's going to happen. What do you think in the murder bot? Is that what you're thinking? No, I mean, I think if they're going to take it back, they're going to grind it back down today. So we'll push our way down to the balancing area low. We won't find support there. We'll fill the gap. We won't find support there. And then sellers really start to pile on. And we get the quick move down to start repairing all the weakness we've left behind. But my guess is this will bring in buyers. My guess is a look below and fail. Boom. Then we pull back up above and we start that sweet, sweet V-shape recovery that we're so used to. Chitin ES rollover to right. I assume you're talking about on that daily. The failure to break out brings us back down to the 20. Could be. It happened here, it happened here, and it happened here. But we just can't forget the balancing area here, right? If they look below and they pull back above, they'll rotate to the opposite end. So let's not get too bearish yet. Let's wait and see what happens after we repair this gap. Ah, the futures contract's rolling over. Yeah, what is the rollover date? Hit me in the chat with the rollover date. Okay, acceptable taper on the low here. Bring in volume. Let's see what the ticks are doing. Still below the zero line. Not yet. Breath is starting to build though. First little bullish thing to see. Sweet couple of days. That shouldn't affect the volume here today. People will still be trading these futures right now. Yeah, once again, we got to backfill these low volume nodes, but then there will be resistance in this right here. So if we can push through that, that will be bullish for continuation higher. But I'd wait till we get above half back before I got bullish, as there is resistance waiting. And we still haven't gotten those ticks above the 0 line. Ooh, almost. Okay, so we just pulled value lower. Value is now overlapping to lower. Overlapping to lower value 2 days in a row, which is a sign of either rotation sideways or a larger pullback. Okay, backfilling those low volume nodes, looking for resistance. Yeah, I don't really have a bias yet, Tom, too much on the market. If I had to, if, gun to my head, I had to put something down here, I'd say bearish, but just to the balancing area low, just to perhaps the repair of the gap below. But then I think we bring in support and trade back up. So if I had to describe how I feel now, it's still neutral. But at this point, I mean, we're just right at an important thing. They're building support and resistance. They're stuck in this range, and the ticks haven't quite been able to stay above the 0 line, so we just haven't gotten a clear signal yet, one way or another. I would say if we get below this node here, you're almost certainly going to go down to here. And if you can get above the half back here, you're almost certainly going to get continuation to the upside. But in this range here, they're just trying to decide. You see this as the balancing area low? Excuse me. You see that as the balancing area low, Donkey? Yeah, I could see that. I still think this is it here. I still think a lot of people are looking at this gap. And that's why getting below that balancing area low to fill that gap and then pushing back up would be extremely bullish for continuation to the opposite end. All right, they're starting to get the ticks back above the 0. Halfback is this white line that you see right here. And it's currently at 45.2450. And because that's where the node of volume kind of ends right there, and that is often like a retracement point. So the market like sells one direction, boom, it pulls back. Halfback is often where it finds resistance and then keeps going if it's going to. It's the same thing as like 50%, on the fib. So the combination of those two, the fact that you got the node of volume that will act as resistance here, and at the very top end or almost the top end of it is the halfback. Getting above that to me would be bullish for potential continuation to the upside. And since we're doing battle in this area right here where that poor low was repaired, getting below that level to me means we're heading to that balance area low. But again, I just want to reiterate that doesn't make me, super bearish. It would be perfectly healthy for the market to come down here, find support, and then turn around and head the other way. We've seen many a V-shaped recovery in this market. Lamest philosophical question: why bullish and or bearish moves is too late to the party? I'm not sure I understand that question. The idea is you position yourself before the moves happen for what you think can happen, right? So for example, this morning, I open up my charts. I see the look above and fail that happened in the overnight, and I think we're going down to the opposite end of balance, so I go short right from the open. And then I'm monitoring for continuation. Is it going to find support here, or do I stay in the short longer? Right? When it gets down to the balancing area, is it going to find support here, or do I stay in the short for longer? then it fills the gap. Is it going to find support here, or do I stay and I just monitor for continuation as it keeps going? So the idea is to be early to the party. That's one thing that Jim Dalton teaches that's a little tricky when you're first starting out is you don't wait until you have 100% confidence for what the market's going to do before you enter a trade. You enter your trade based on trade location, risk reward, and what you think the market is going to do. But you only need like 60% confidence that you know what the market's going to do. And you're protected by your money management. You're protected by the size of the entry that you take and how much risk you're taking in terms of where your stop is. Then once you're in the trade, you're monitoring for continuation. You're monitoring to see, is my thesis that I believed in correct? Is it still correct? Is it still correct? That's the way you kind of do it. But you don't wait to enter a trade. Unless you're super cautious, which there's nothing wrong with that either. I've talked about on this channel many times the idea of like you only need one good trade. You could sit back all morning and let this market sell off and then wait to see if you find support down here and then just go long when you find support down here. So let's say it's like the gap fill and you put your buy order like right there and you put your stop loss just like a few bucks below, like right there. So you wait all day for it to come down. It fills your order, turns around in V-shapes recovery. Guess what you've got? One single trade you can sit in for the rest of the day and just print money. So what we talk about on this channel is just trying to understand what the market is doing. But there's a million different ways to trade that once you have a feeling for what it's doing. Okay, so the next target is going to be that bounce area low. To the downside, they're pulling value lower with it. Value is now completely below yesterday, which is bearish. Chase, probability of it going up today, pretty good. I mean, this market loves to buy a dip. So the chances that it finds support and turns around and heads the other way, in my mind, are, I don't know, 60, 70%. Better than 50-50. Trading donkey. MK, truer words have never been spoken. Chase, I don't ever tell people how to trade, but if it were me and I was sitting in a call right now, I would wait and see what happens down here. Again, very, very, just like over and over and over again, when you have a balancing area, you just trade back and forth between the two sides. So if we get a look below and fail here, and we repair this gap, and then it finds support down here, and it pushes back up here, that would be very bullish for us to travel all the way to the opposite end of balance, which is up here. Okay? So if I was in a call, I'd wait just a little bit longer before I gave up. Okay, so now we're getting some panic. We're starting to get some liquidation here. They see that gap. They want to fill that gap. The question is, what happens once they do? Do we start to get a bunch of pink candlesticks? Do they start to build some volume for the rotation back up? All right, guys. Yeah, we got to that balance area low. Let's smash that like button. Pew, 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 pew. Smash the thumb. Okay, so I'm feeling neutral here, waiting to see what happens when we fill this gap. If we bring in support and push back up to where we are now, I'll be bullish. If we continue to sell off, I will be bearish, targeting that daily 20. Okay, which is down there at 84-ish. So to me, this is still not a good low down here. It's now a poor low because it's one tick from the low of the 30th. It's also just a few ticks away from repairing that gap. And it only has 29 contracts at the low. So to me, that was just the liquidation, and we pulled back up, and now the two-sided trade begins. So let's keep an eye on these ticks and see, do they keep staying stuck below that zero line? If so, there's more sellers piling on in here. Correct, Jitten. That is a poor low. Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point, Donkey, if we get above this node here at 20, then this was the look below and fail that should send us the opposite end. But I still think they're doing battle here. Those ticks can't stay above the zero line for very long. So I think the market wants to go make a good low. Chase, feeling sad. Not yet, brother. Relax. It's okay, man. The rotation, the reason that these balancing areas are so like awesome to learn to read them is because they are extremely potent. The way to think about it is that like spending all this time inside this box. Whoa, man. So spending all this time inside this box makes it, oh man, my computer is so slow. Anyway, spending all this time inside of here makes it very, very strong. This is a sign of acceptance of these higher prices via time, which is the most potent form of acceptance by time. So looking below this value area is no big deal as long as it pulls back above. As long as it pulls back above, the target becomes the high. And you just watch. If we find support down here, by tomorrow, we'll be up here, if not today. So I really wouldn't be sweating along unless we got below the gap and then we kept selling. That's when I'd get nervous. But this right now is just perfectly normal market behavior. They built up tons of support, and now they're just double checking that they were right and the market is ready to continue higher. Still think they need to make a better low. So Tom asks, better low, question mark? Yeah, so the low of the day right now, this B period low, that is a poor low. Okay, why is it poor? Well, we've got multiple reasons. The first is it stopped one tick above this previous low from the 30th. Okay, so that alone makes it a poor low. We also have only 29 contracts that traded there. That's a very low number. And just the ES just has way more participants than that. So likely it needs to trade back down there and give some more people a chance to do business down there. Okay. Then you add on top of that we had a gap, literally just 3 ticks lower. It could have filled a gap. So that makes it even more poor. Okay. So just like thing after thing after thing is telling me this is not a good low. The market, remember, I think about the market like an auction process, right? The auctioneer pushed it down. Oh, do we have 414, 413, 412, 411, 410? And somebody bought it up so quick that there's a bunch of people that wanted to bid down here. They wanted to buy, and they didn't get a chance. And so what the market does is it moves to wherever the trade will take place. So right now it's working right here. There's a lot of people buying up in here. But as soon as they run out and the market starts to pull down, this is where business will take place down here. So that becomes the target. But honestly, right now, they had to look below and fail, and they're bringing in volume. So it's just the ticks that matter. Can they get the ticks above the 0 line? If not, these are more sellers than buyers in here. Okay. We've now got some single prints left behind by the B period, increasing the odds they will be backfilled at some point today, which is actually bullish once we repair the poor low. Okay. Yeah, it's a matter of, on the momentum, it's a matter of fear, right? The people who are selling here are scared that the market's going to have a crazy, crazy pullback. The buyers are the strong hands buyers who are seeing it as a bounce off the lower end of balance. So there's just more fear than there is greed right now. But when they backfill this gap, everything will change. Market is one time framing lower, which is another bearish signal. And we continue to pull value lower, which is bearish as well. So like I said, if we get below this gap and we don't immediately, and I mean like within a couple of minutes, find support and then push back above this balancing area, that is extremely bearish to me for further downside continuation. Okay. But that gap is going to be really important. All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm going to call it a day. This base of the B period single prints should act as resistance once the market pushes up to there and backfills those. So you get another push lower. I would have rather we left those single prints behind and repaired the low first, because one by one, we are just building up bearish signals for continuation to the downside. Like I said, if that gap, once it's repaired, if you don't immediately pull back up above that 45.12 level, you're likely looking at a pullback down towards the 20 moving average on the daily, which is currently sitting at about 82. Okay. So big pullback if we can't find support once that gap is filled. If you're not a member of the Brigade, there's a link in the description. It costs $10 a month, and then you get to watch the full trading day with me. For those of you that are in the Brigade, give me a good 5-10 minutes and I should have that stream up and running. Thank you guys so much.